Hello, welcome to episode 186 of the Epic Film Challenge 2, 1,001 Movies You Must See Before You Die, 1925's The Gold Rush, kind of. I'd already seen this before, classic Charlie Chaplin film, so for this reviewing, and Connie's first viewing, we watched the 1942 version, the George Lucas special edition before there was George Lucas. Chaplin decided to revisit The Gold Rush in 1942 and add...
Spaceships everywhere!
No, he added narration that he did himself to tell the story. He voices some of the characters, including his own character and other characters. He recorded a new musical score, added sound effects, so it effectively removes all the intertitles. The film's a bit shorter. He went into the editing of the film, he tightened it up, he cut things out, and I went back to the silent version because the Criterion has both cuts, and I kind of compared it, and he'd taken out certain shots as well. It wasn't just removing certain subplots, it was quite an interesting re-edit. The ending's different. I'm not sure if it was the best thing to show you this version first, because I think the silent version is a little bit better. But the 1942 version is the one that he absolutely wants to be the version, to the point where once he'd done it in 1942, he said that's the version, forget about the silent one. And when he was denied re-entry into America in 1952, he said, right, sell my studios then, sell all the film footage, junk all the Gold Rush, but someone kept hold of them and reconstructed the 1925 version for people to enjoy that too. And Chaplin was furious about this. He sued the guy, got hold of the footage again and destroyed it. So he really didn't want that silent version to be, he thought the 42 version was the version. So the story is about Chaplin as, I think, what was his name? The little fellow, I think he called him in the narration, is out in the mountains, the prospector, looking for gold and stuff. There's a great opening shot of him going across this...
Snowy mountains.
Snow mountains, yeah.
That's important.
Yeah, and it's a great opening shot of him kind of walking along this treacherous mountain path and kind of almost falling off the edge, which was done with a glass matte painting, which is really cool. And he bumps into this guy in the middle of like the snowy wilderness in a cabin, and that's like the first third of the film is them in this cabin trying to survive. There's a scene where he cooks his boot and they share the boot and stuff, and then eventually he gets out of that and he goes to a local town, and that's where he stays, falls in love with a girl. And then there's also the subplot of the guy that he was in the cabin with at the beginning of the film knows where there's a mountain of gold and he's looking for it. So what did you think of the film?
Well, like you said, maybe I would have liked the silent version better. But I do enjoy listening to Charlie Chaplin talk.
Yeah, that was a real treat to hear that.
Yeah, his voice is just great. The way he talks and everything. And
the narration was really well done, just simple, to the point,
Yeah.
It was really well written.
He's always to the point.
Yeah. I actually enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I would, because I think the UK Blu-ray doesn't have the silent version, so I had to get the Criterion because I had to watch the silent version. I can't be watching voiceover, but I actually enjoyed it quite a lot more than I thought I would. And I think there are bits of it that are better than the silent version. So I don't think it's very clear cut. It's quite difficult, but
there are bits that he cut out.
Yeah.
That I really liked. There are bits that he cut out that were good that he cut out.
Yeah.
I think I reacted to one of the things, but
I don't think it's like a radically different film. I mean, in a way it is, in a way it isn't. He really simplifies the romance, because in the original version, the girl Georgia, she's very aloof and kind of doesn't really pay the tramp or the prospector much attention, and he's in love with her and stuff.
She's quite a bitch.
She's quite a bitch, yeah. And there's another guy there who's kind of courting her, and he's a big guy, and obviously he opposes Chaplin and stuff, and he's just a dick, basically, and of course she likes him.
Bitch and the dick.
Yeah, the bitch. In the silent version, towards the end, she kind of lets Chaplin down. Like, he sets up a dinner for her and her friends, and she doesn't show up. It's just a heartbreaking scene, really sad. And then she writes him a letter. No, she writes her boyfriend a letter about something else, saying, "Oh, I'm sorry about last night," or whatever. And the letter accidentally gets into the hands of Chaplin, and he thinks that it's for him because of the dinner that she missed. And so he's like, "Oh, yeah."
Really?
Yeah. But
I thought it was for Chaplin.
No, in the 1942 version, he changed it, that she was writing to him. So in the original version, she wasn't even thinking about the prospector, she was thinking about her actual boyfriend. And so it's this miscommunication thing. But in his 42, definitive version, he decided to just streamline that and make it so that she did feel, well, she feels remorse in both cuts, but to the point where she writes him a letter and, you know, whatever.
Even though they're in the same building, more or less.
Yeah, you know, and in the silent version you see her writing the note, so I mean that he cut that out too. There's lots of different changes, but it's got the classic scene with the breadsticks, with him dancing with them, which had been done before. We saw it in a Fatty Arbuckle short from 1917, but I think the Chaplin's version is probably like, you know, he did it better. You know, he just the way that he, I mean, it's very simple. You put 2 forks and 2 bits of bread and you make them look like feet, but just the way that he does it, you know, with such flair and Chaplinness, the physical charisma he has with that kind of thing. What did you like about the film?
The Chaplinness.
The Chaplinness.
No, it's just a creativity, I guess.
Very creative.
It just, I mean, all of his movies are creative. He's like the Jackie Chan of silent movies. You know, he uses everything around him and stuff.
Well, I'd probably give that to Buster Keaton, or even Harold Lloyd, actually. As far as comparing to Jackie Chan. Because I think what Chaplin does is he has that great creative side to him.
You're just thinking about stunts now, I think.
Yeah, I guess, but
he uses things.
He does, yeah, that's true.
I'm not saying like he's going on a limb.
True.
So that's not what I'm saying. But I there are a lot of things that I really loved about it. I thought maybe the cabin thing went on a little bit too long, and that might be why I kind of like...
In the beginning?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it does. I think for something that is essentially just a kind of a comedy set piece, I think it's 25 minutes, in the 42 version at least.
Yeah.
It does drag on a bit when it doesn't need to, I think.
Yeah.
I think the story gets much more interesting when he's in the town and he falls in love with a girl. So.
Yeah, but at the same time, like, well, that town was close.
Yeah.
Like, where was he going in the beginning anyways? Was he just going on a mountain?
He sets up at the beginning that it was, I mean, it's set in the 1890s where, like, you know, people are just going out and trying to find anything, you know, the gold rush, you know, they're just looking for gold.
Was he looking for gold?
Yeah, well, he's called a prospector, so he would be looking for gold. I mean, it's just that, you know,
He did a good job at it, did he?
people are poor and they're just looking for anything and they're just going from town to town trying to, you know, find anything. So.
Well, he's kind of a cheeky bastard as well, isn't he? With the pretending to be frozen and getting coffee and some dessert.
Yeah, that scene when he...
And then taking over the whole cabin.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, go on then. Like, you don't know. We just met. But I'm just going to feed the mule, you know, and take care of your house. It's just, yeah. But thinking back at it now, how the house nearly falls off a cliff. Is that a spoiler?
No, that's fine. No. Yeah, there's a pretty cool sequence
pretty good,
with the cabin on the edge of a cliff and the miniature photography. There's like double exposure stuff.
Yeah, knowing really, the special effects as well is really impressive.
Yeah, just really, you know, impressive for the time. And I've seen a lot of special effects in silent films, but I think it's done really well. Like the stuff where they would film the actors on like a white background with like perfectly contoured stage so that it would fit the miniature. You know, the way that it goes up and down. I mean, it's not perfect, but it's pretty damn close, and it still holds up and serves the story really, really well, I think. And
I guess I like the Georgia part as well because she's different from all the other women in
that's a good point.
She's a bitch, and she's she looks like she wants to take care of herself, and she's got like that attitude going on.
Yeah.
And when she found out that Chaplin likes her, I thought she would get all like, oh, and he's sincere and he's nice, you know.
Right.
But she did the opposite and decided to make fun of it with her girls.
Yeah.
So that surprised me, which was a good thing, I think.
Yeah, it's different. But in the 42 version, he adds in the narration, which wasn't part of the silent version, I believe. He says that with these girls who live in the town and stuff, because of the way they are, they don't like to show their emotions because of how tough they have to be. And so, like, he kind of added that little seed there in the 42 version that, you know, yeah, she's making fun of him, but it's probably just because she's, you know, she's around her friends and stuff, and she doesn't want to lose face, you know. And he's also adding that narrative, like, 15 years after he made the film, but still, I quite liked that element.
I got a little confused because I wasn't sure if she was being mean or not, I guess.
Yeah.
I didn't feel like it was completely clear, but they were laughing and giggling and stuff like that, and so, I don't know.
Yeah, I think...
Maybe it's because I'm so used to the girl being, oh, you know, all good and stuff, and so it confused me seeing this in a silent movie. the girl acting like that.
But, like-
because that's what you see nowadays, I guess.
But like you say, it's a nice difference actually for the time.
Well, true.
But and it makes
it's
it
unexpected.
and it makes it all the more heartbreaking when he's so earnest, and you know the care and attention he puts into setting up the dinner and stuff and the presents, and it's just like when he stood there waiting at the door and hearing them partying, you know, off in the distance. And there's actually an extra shot that he took out of the 42 version when he closes the door and kind of he's almost teary-eyed, and I wish he kept that shot in the 42 version.
It's kind of blurry.
Huh?
It's kind of blurry when he walked towards the camera.
It wasn't really. It's a very minor thing to nitpick at. I think. I think the emotion of it comes through, whether it's slightly out of focus or whatever. And well, we'll leave the ending of the film. We'll do a tiny spoiler talk at the end to wrap it up. But yeah, I think that in the 42 version he sought to make the romance a little bit more black and white, perhaps. Again, in the silent version with George's boyfriend, he says, "Do you love me?" And she's like, "Yes." You know, and that was cut out of the 42 version. So
Good for me.
yeah, I suppose
That would have made me even more confused.
Yeah, and I did have a little bit.
It would have been really messy with the way he's cut it so far. So.
Yeah. So.
I just wanted to say that because yesterday he asked me how I ranked it or where I ranked it.
Yeah, where you put it amongst the other Chaplin films that you've seen.
Yeah, because that's what I do. I compare to the other Chaplin movies. I can't compare to any of the modern movies nowadays. Because it's not possible, because it's a genre of its own, you know, and it's set in a different time.
Yeah.
And it's my least favorite Chaplin movie so far, but I've only seen like 6 or 7.
Yeah.
So I don't have that many to compare it to. I did really enjoy it thinking back to it now. Thinking back to.
Yeah. It's one of my favorites. I find it weird that this should be in the book. Spoilers, but I find it strange that the kid isn't in the book. I think that's one of his best films.
That's my next least favourite, I guess.
Okay. And I think the next time we watch this, whenever that'll be, that you probably check out the silent version to compare, I suppose.
Yeah.
So, is it a film you should see before you die?
Yeah. It's a Chaplin movie, you gotta see it. It's worthy of the death list.
Death list?
You know.
I didn't realise it was called the death list. Maybe that'll be like the next press
worthy of the bucket list. That's what I meant. Before you kick the bucket.
Forget calling it 1001 movies, you must see the death list.
The death list of movies.
I'm sure that'll sell better. So, just based on the fact that it's a Chaplin film then, you would say that, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, fair enough. Yeah, for me it is a film you should see before you die. I think it's a wonderful film. Not without its flaws, but its pluses far outweigh its very minor minuses. So, tiny little spoiler talk at the end. The ending of the film, in the 42 version, the revised version, sees Chaplin bump into Georgia on a ship. He's now a millionaire, and he's wearing his trampy clothes for a photo shoot, basically. And so she kind of sees him and thinks that he's stowing away on board, and they're about to throw him off, and she's like, "No, I'll pay his fare," which kind of shows you, I guess, that she, you know, either felt remorseful over how she treated him, or that she really cares for him.
And also that she's not suddenly liking him because of his money.
Yes, that's a very
an important point.
Very important point. And then they walk off together, and that's the end. In the original version in 1925,
it ends with an ass shot.
In the 42 version,
yeah,
yes. Because they walk up the steps.
Yeah.
In a very uncinematic closing shot, I have to say, I like the idea of him leaving it more ambiguous as to whether they would get together or not, but it's just a very boring, static shot to end the film on. But the 25 version of the Gold Rush ends with him and Georgia going up onto the next level of the ship, and they pose for the picture, and they kiss. And I really like the way that it's done. It's a nice, playful kind of kiss, and it's...
it doesn't just happen.
Yeah, it's a nice build-up to it and stuff, and I think it's... even if you kind of think, you know, is she a good girl or not for him, I think that it's just a nice moment and probably should have ended the film.
It should have ended like that.
And,
I don't know why it did it otherwise.
Well, I guess maybe he, I don't know, he very much even said to his family, like, you know, this is the version, you know, so as far as the official Chaplin estate is concerned.
It's the Inception ending.
The Inception ending.
You don't know.
Right, you don't.
When it's sealed with a kiss, it's kind of out there, isn't it?
Not really,
Back
no.
in the day, that got you married, you know?
Right.
Okay. Kids the next day.
Yeah. And one final thing I loved that I didn't notice the first time is when we first see him as a millionaire on the boat, and he's walking there with the other guy from the beginning, and they're like, you know, and they've got the posh clothes on and everything, and he notices a little half a cigar on the floor, and he picks it up and starts it in his back, you know, and the guy's like, put that away, look, we've got, you know, some deluxe cigars. And so I liked that little element that he still had the, you know,
it doesn't go away in the day, does it?
Yeah, like the resourcefulness and stuff, and I just thought it was a nice little character moment, really. So, yeah, that's about it, I think. The Gold Rush, film you should see before you die.
Death List?
The Death List. So thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.